I'm Simon Mitchell, founder of Photo Enterprise, and I'm here with James Madelin of Enlight Photo. And he is the founder of this company, and he has invented a number of really good items which I want to talk to him about. How did you first get into photography?
I first got into photography through my dad, and it's quite a poignant story, but he didn't think of himself as a photographer, but he really was a really quite incredible photographer. And I'm saying was, and it's poignant because he died a couple of years ago. But I learned a lot about the way I started photography when he died, because I had to go back through the family archives, and he brought me up always being very careful about framing. You know, I remember when I was 8 or 9 and he started to teach me how to take a photo, and he would always say, you know, make sure that the horizon's flat, always put someone in the photo, you know, which you can take photos without people in them if you're a brilliant landscape photographer, but it is a great tip for everyday travel photography. Get someone in your photo. And when I wanted my first camera, instead of getting me a little pocket sort of snappy compact camera, he bought me an Olympus XA, which is one of the coolest, smallest film cameras you can get. And the crucial thing is it's manual focus and it's aperture priority. So I think I was 11 when I got it, I had to learn aperture and shutter speed and depth of field and that kind of thing. And I guess I'm a bit of a geek. I kind of love thinking and learning and things like that. And that was it for me. I was off, and then it was saving up and buying an SLR, and then it was another SLR, and then it was lenses and flashes, and then I realized that I really wanted to go further with my photography, so I gave up my sort of career as an investment banker and became a photographer, and then came across something that I really wanted that didn't exist. So that brings me to today as a sort of an inventor of photo accessories.
Fantastic. And do you have any suggestions for people looking to get into photography?
So get into professional photography or just get into photography?
I think as photography, I think everybody can enjoy it. They have a camera, but if they wanted to take it that step further and go into professional photography, what advice would you give to somebody?
My advice for anyone wanting to become a professional photographer is the advice you will not hear anywhere else. My advice is don't. And here's why. Having been a photographer, and now not really a photographer anymore because I spend, all my time on the accessories, I've seen sort of both sides of the industry. I've seen that desperate passion to see my photos published, and I've worked and worked and worked until I've seen my photos published, and now I've sort of almost come out the other side. So the weird thing that I found as a professional photographer was that I lost a lot of the love for it. When I had to get up every day and do it as a job, on other people's terms, whether that was a boss that I was working for, like an editor at a newspaper, or just the other people's terms of my clients, I found that I fell out of love with photography. And you will find this among a lot of professional photographers. Ask them how many times they carry a camera around at the weekends. And I mean full-time professional photographers who don't do anything else. Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm a photographer, when actually you maybe shoot your second cousin's wedding. We're talking really professional photographers. I'm talking about, making your bread and butter, daily living full-time. Many of them don't enjoy photography very much. And I realized after a few years that I kind of missed that. I also went and found the academic research about it. And it's pretty clear that psychologists have shown, peer-reviewed research in lab conditions, that as soon as you get rewarded for doing something, anything, you enjoy it less. So my advice is, if you really love photography, then stay that way and look forward to a life of loving photography without confusing having to earn a living from it and getting obsessed with the earning a living and all of those things, because that sort of brings all sorts of cloudy issues, and you'll soon find that you will probably be loving photography a lot less. That's before we even get into the fact that it's actually harder than it's ever been to make a living as a professional photographer. And so there's also that. It's just it's hard. It was very hard when I got into it 10 years ago. It's even harder now. And the things, I've actually just finished an ebook about becoming a professional photographer. You'll be surprised to discover the things that make you a successful professional photographer are really nothing to do with taking great photos. It's all the other stuff, because you're running a small business. And it's no different from running any other business. And if you're a successful professional photographer, you'll actually find that most of your days are filled with spreadsheets, financial forecasts, marketing, networking, website building, web copy. Actually, there's a fun element to all of that, but that's one of the reasons, I guess, why you enjoy it less, because you find that you're not doing a lot of photography. So that's my advice. If you really want to become a professional photographer, really think long and hard about what it will be like, and perhaps decide that actually, if you love photography, that you just want to keep loving it.
Fantastic. Well, good answer. So you've been a press photographer, so how important would you say it is to let the photograph tell the story?
What a brilliant question. I think it's essential. Well, so I think it's essential to let the photograph tell the story, with one caveat, that it's very hard for any photograph to tell the whole story. In the same way that it's impossible for any article to tell the whole story in the opening sentence. You need the body of the article in the same way that you need the caption of the photograph, because you need to understand where it was taken, why it was taken, who are the people in the photograph, what's their backstory, what's perhaps their immediate future, to really fill out. Every photo should tell that story of impact and interest, but ultimately you do need that great caption, which again, I guess, is one of those interesting things. As a press photographer, I found that it was as important to be a journalist as it was to be a photojournalist. Because if you take 10 photos back to your editor and you haven't captioned them, they're useless for the newspaper, by and large. And if you take them back and you haven't spelled the captions very well, and the sub-editors need to re-sub them and all of that, then you soon find that the photojournalist who writes good captions is getting a lot more work. So, it's important for the photo to tell the story, but it's also important that you always caption them. So if you're ever lucky enough to be somewhere where there's news unfolding and you get those photos, calmly remember, get people's names, say to them, I'm a photographer, I work for, and get the name of your local paper. Can I just get your name? Can I ask you about what's happened here today? How are you feeling? Because this is all part of the reporting that I'm doing for the day. It makes a big difference. Fantastic. Also helps you sell your photos for more if that's what you're doing.
Definitely, yeah. Excellent. So, one of your great inventions is the Orbis. Can you tell us about that?
I can. So, the Orbis, in a nutshell, transforms the light from your speedlight flash and into beautiful shadowless light. And it does that by reshaping it into a ring. So, of course, right there you've got a bit of a clue. It transforms your speedlight flash that normally gives very hard-edged light, that's very rarely, that often looks horrible, into a ring flash. It also changes the size of your speedlight light into a light about the same size and shape as a face. So you've got beautiful soft side lit sort of softbox effects, and then you can also lift it over the top of the camera for a beautiful beauty dish effect as well.
Fantastic. Have we got one to show?
We do. I've got an Orbis just here. So here's an example of the Orbis, and so you put any flash in the bottom. Set up your flash to fire off camera, which is easy to do with an off-camera cord, and a lot of Nikon, Canon, Sony, Olympus, Pentax systems actually can do that automatically. And as you can see, it reshapes the light, so you can push your lens through the middle and get ring flash light. You can hold it off to one side of your subject and get sort of a side-lit light, and then you can also lift it over the top and get beauty dish light. And of course, all of these lighting effects you'd normally be spending up to £1,000 or more on studio gear. And that was really, I sort of made one in my garage and was using it so often when I was working as a photographer that I realised that other photographers would want it, because I couldn't afford to buy all that studio gear, let alone carry it around with me. And the photos you get with your Orbis are indistinguishable from photos taken with very, very expensive studio gear.
Brilliant. Well, it's an amazing piece of kit. You have many other inventions, so for any budding entrepreneurs out there, how do you come up with the ideas for them?
I find coming up with the ideas is one of the easiest parts of the job, and that's a bit counterintuitive, but it actually is similar to where I was explaining earlier that as a professional photographer, the actual art of photography is a very small part of your daily life. It's kind of similar with inventing, because I bet you have had an idea of something that you wish existed. We all have. That's all that I'm doing. That's all that having an idea is. The challenge is that most of the ideas that we all have aren't of any interest to anyone else. And one of the pitfalls, in fact, is you have an idea and you'll turn to your significant other or your close family and say, "What do you think?" And they'll go, "Wow, that's amazing." Well, that's why you love each other and their family. They support you. It doesn't mean that when you go out to strangers and people that you've never met before and you try and sell them this product, which is ultimately obviously very important to do if you're a successful entrepreneur, that people are going to be into it. And so if I look at the process from ideation, from that first spark of having an idea, to successfully selling something and building a company to do it, the actual idea has been a tiny, tiny part of that journey. And so as part of that, yeah, I have hundreds, if not thousands of ideas a year, and maybe one of them will actually become something real. And they don't always work, because even with a lot of that market validation, which is entrepreneurially a very important process, it's a bit of a science, even with all of going through that to really try and remove all the risk, you'll still find that sometimes things just won't work. Or most importantly, they would have worked, but 6 months later when you've tooled it and built it and it's available to everyone, it hasn't. So yeah, it's a very small part of the process. It's fun. I really enjoy it. It's one of the best bits. But yeah. So really, it's just about looking around you and giving yourself the freedom and the space to really think, well, hang on, that's annoying. Is there something that could solve that? And then that's the start of your journey.
Fantastic. Okay. And with so much technology around us these days, where do you see photography going at the moment?
Wow. Well, actually, I'm doing a panel discussion on that over the next couple of days at the photography show, because it is such a pertinent topic at the moment. There's no fixed answer, and I think I'd be crazy if I sat here and said I know where the world is going. But I do have a very strong feeling that the rise of mobile phones with their cameras and the quality of those cameras and the photos that you can the brilliant photos you can take with them is not simply an evolution of photography. I think it's a seismic shift in photography. Because I regularly hear people say, you could never do a professional portrait shoot with an iPhone. And you can. I know people who've done it. And people say to me, we'll never find them replacing SLRs. And they already have for literally tens of millions of people worldwide. And they have for professional photographers who I've spoken to, who've told me that to really find out how good phone photography is without telling their clients, they've shot it on iPhone instead of their usual SLR gear, presented the same photos to their clients, and not had them bat an eyelid. High-level commercial photographers. You can't do everything with a phone that you can do with an SLR, but you know, when 35mm first came into use in the 40s, that was a significant evolution in photography. When digital came in, it was a significant evolution in photography, but fundamentally we were still using cameras. Phones now, we're not using cameras anymore, and I really think they're the future. And people say to me, but we'll always have a place for SLRs, and I'm not sure we will. I don't know what it's going to look like. You know, there's some really cool companies out there like Lytro who are really trying, but yeah, we'll have to see where it goes. But I think phones are the future.
So watch this space. And so, where can people find you? You've got a website. How can people find you if they want to?
So very easy. If you Google Enlight Photo, Enlight Photo, Enlight Photo, or just look for Orbis Flash, you'll find us. We've just launched a new blog and store in the UK called Big Fan of Photo, and that's very new, but it's sort of growing fast. There's some really cool blog posts there. But yeah, the website is enlightphotopro.com. But we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Yeah, Google or Bing if you're that way inclined, or even Yahoo, and you'll find us really easily. James Madelin, Orbis Ring Flash Enlight Photo.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.